Section 2. Video 4. Introducing JSX. We have two main objectives in this video. 1. We will examine JSX in more detail. 2. We will show examples of how JSX is used in React. JSX is a syntax extension to JavaScript. Using JSX with React is recommended to describe what the UI should look like. JSX compiles to React elements, which we discussed in the previous video. We can comment out our header element on line 6, and uncomment the JSX version in the line above. Now, the element we created in line 6 has a props object, with an ID of header. One way to add props to a JSX element is to specify a string literal as an attribute to the tag. In our example, we can add an ID attribute, with a value of header as a string literal. We can see that our red header color has been successfully applied. Since JSX is closer to JavaScript than HTML, we camel-case attribute names in JSX. For example, the global HTML attribute content editable is written all lowercase. But in JSX, we camel-case the prop content editable. Now our header is editable. Let's now remove the content editable and ID attributes, and delete the commented out line. Now, let's go to public, index.html and remove the styles. Now, we will return to source, index.js. We can embed JavaScript expressions within JSX. Define a constant name with the value of the string literal John Doe. Now, instead of the word world in our header, we can embed the name within the JSX element, within curly braces. We can put any valid JavaScript expression inside the curly braces in JSX. For example, we can call a function. Let's define the function format name. It will return the user's first name and last name. Now, we will add some user data. It will be an object with fields for the first name, last name, and the URL of a photo. Note that after compilation, JSX expressions become regular JavaScript function calls and evaluate to JavaScript objects. This means that you can use JSX inside of if statements, and for loops. Assign JSX to variables. Accept JSX as arguments. And return JSX from functions. Let's define a function that gets a greeting for a user. If there is a user, then return a greeting using their formatted name. Otherwise, return a generic greeting. Now, let's see what happens when we set our user to null. We see our page now shows "Hello Stranger." Let's undo setting user to null. If a tag is empty, you may close it immediately, as you would do in XML. For example, an image tag. is closed immediately. Instead of using quotes to specify string literals as attributes, you can also use curly braces to embed a JavaScript expression in an attribute. JSX tags may contain several children. As a final point for this video, JSX prevents injection attacks. It is safe to embed user input in JSX. To demonstrate this, let's first remove the elements we have used up to now. We can also remove the function declarations and the user. Now, let's prompt the user for some input, which if the user is a hacker, could be malicious code. And, we will create an element embedding the user input received. Now, we can try to enter a script which is malicious, which we will mock as follows. By default, React DOM escapes any values embedded in JSX before rendering them. Thus it ensures that you can never inject anything that's not explicitly written in your application. Everything is converted to a string before being rendered. This helps prevent cross-site scripting attacks. Before we end this video, let's return to the Hello World example, which we will start with in the next video. To summarize, in this video, we had a close look at JSX. And we showed several examples of how it is used with React. In the next video, we will show you how to render React elements to the DOM, and update them.